Hey guys, welcome back to Homesteading Off the Grid. As of this recording, the new year is quickly approaching. I'm making this video on 30 December, so tomorrow's New Year's Eve, the day after that's the new year. I've mentioned in previous videos about how I used to smoke, I used to chew tobacco, among many other terrible things I used to do, but that I quit. I've been clean and sober for many years now, and on New Year's Day, I will have gone for one entire year without chewing tobacco. So I'm 2 days away as of this recording of being 1 year completely free of tobacco. So I'm going to very quickly tell you my history with chewing tobacco and cigarettes, how I started, how I tried to stop and couldn't. I had a lot of times I stopped but couldn't stay stopped, but then how I finally quit. Because a lot of you who smoke or chew tobacco have probably, I'm going to assume, made it a New Year's resolution to stop. And I want to help you if I can. This worked for me. It may or may not work for you, but I at least want to share my experience with you in the case that it can. So, I never thought I'd ever smoke. I mean, I had a track background, ran track and cross country in high school and college, and was actually pretty good at it. And did road races, all that stuff. So I just never thought I'd be a smoker. So I experimented with tobacco in my youth, but it kind of made me throw up. So I didn't stick with it at that time. However, I joined the military later in life, in my mid-30s actually. And when I was in basic training and airborne school down in Fort Benning, Georgia, because I was an infantryman and that's where we went to our training schools, I started chewing tobacco along with some of my younger, co-soldiers there going through training. And at that point in my life, it stuck. So within months after getting out of basic training at AIT and airborne school, I was in Iraq, deployed in, I was a machine gunner in Mosul for a year, kept chewing. And believe it or not, something I thought I would never do, I started smoking cigarettes while I was deployed in Iraq. Basically because all we had to do was chew, smoke, and cuss. And I was doing them all. And I told myself at the time, well, I'm a runner. I've got this athletic background. When I get home from Iraq, I'll stop smoking. So I got home from Iraq, and guess what? I couldn't stop smoking. I smoked for 3 more years after I left Iraq. Now, I quit temporarily during a short period when I was in the U.S., but then I expatriated to the Philippine Islands, lived there for 5, almost 6 years before coming back to the U.S. a few years ago. And guys, I started smoking again in the Philippines because cigarettes were so cheap. They don't have the tobacco taxes over there that we have here. They don't have all the regulation. They don't have all the built-in prices for the lawsuits, where people can choose to smoke and then sue the companies if they get cancer, which we all know smoking does. So listen, like a pack of Marlboro Light menthols costs about $6, $7, or $8 in the Virginia area. And this is one of the cheaper tobacco states because a lot of this tobacco is grown here. In the Philippines, you can get that same pack of Marlboro Light menthols for approximately 75 cents US dollars because there's no tobacco taxes, none of this regulation stuff, and none of the frivolous lawsuits. So I thought, how can I pass this up? 75 cents a pack? So I started smoking again. Well, thus began a relationship of stopping smoking and starting chewing. What I would do is I basically would substitute. I would pride myself in having stopped smoking the whole time, though, I was chewing tobacco. So then I'd stop chewing tobacco, and shortly after that, I'd start smoking again because they were so cheap in the Philippines. Well, I moved back to the U.S. I was not going to pay $7 or $8 a pack for cigarettes, but I started paying $3 for a can of dip again. And I chewed for my first 2 years back in the U.S. And again, 2 days from now, it will be one full year since I've chewed tobacco. And just to be fully honest, during this 1 year window, I smoked 3 cigarettes in the middle of it. I'm going to tell you why, when, and how I nipped that in the bud, pun intended, just as quickly as I quit chewing the tobacco. So, I had this friend years ago, okay? I thought the world of this woman. She was about 20 years older than me. She was had a childlike spirit. A lot of people like to label. People would label this friend of mine as maybe earthy, tree hugger, hippie type, whatever, dude. I don't use those labels. I thought she was a very kind, very sincere, very sweet person, and I enjoyed being around her. So I was with her hanging out one time, and I was chewing, and she told me how she quit smoking cigarettes like something like 20 years before this, and it worked for her, and she said this would work for me. I laughed kind of like secretly when she told me this story. I didn't show any disrespect to her at the time, but I stored this idea away in my mind, and this is what I did 1 year ago, 2 days from now, to get off of the tobacco, and it's worked. Basically, she explained to me, tobacco is from the earth. The earth gives us so many wonderful, good things that are helpful for us, our nutrients, our food. It's just that at some point, man comes along, especially corporate man, and adds terrible, nasty poisons to it, plus certain chemicals that will cause us to become addicted to it for profit, so that if we try to get off of it, we can't, because they're making money from us as we're buying it. So we're paying good, hard-earned money to kill ourselves on something that, a century ago, like I said, I'm in Virginia. The cash crop of Virginia for many, many centuries was tobacco. It was relatively harmless with its natural levels of nicotine or whatnot, centuries ago. But now we all know it's just poison, it'll kill you. So she said that what she did is she went out into nature like I am right here. You can do this in your yard. You can do it in the forest. You can do it in a park. I'm just inside my tree line here on my homestead. And she said what she did, and this is what I did, and I'm going to kind of demonstrate it here for you now, because it worked for me, and I believe it'll work for you if you keep an open mind and give this an honest effort and a fair shake. Simply open up your tobacco, or if it's cigarettes, and I did this summer, and I'm going to explain this here in a minute, in the 30 seconds or less version, I promise. So if it's a cigarette, you unroll the paper and you take out the tobacco out of the cigarette. If it's dip, tobacco, pouch of tobacco, take it out of the pouch or the can. And you simply say to the earth, Earth, thank you for giving me this. I needed this for a time. With tobacco, with nicotine, for me, guys, it was during times of extreme duress and stress. Iraq, I'm in a combat zone. I'm in a war zone. Like it or not, nicotine calms our nerves. And it was very helpful. So Earth, thank you for giving me this during a time when I needed it. I don't need it anymore, and I don't want it anymore. So I'm not throwing it in the trash because I didn't get it out of the trash. The trash didn't give it to me. And for years when I tried to quit, I'd throw it in the trash. It never worked. Earth, I'm giving it back to you. Thank you for letting me borrow it for the time in which I needed it. But I'm giving it back. I'm giving it all back. I don't need it anymore. You can have it back. This is what I did. In 2 days, this was 1 year ago, I did this. And it worked. Now, that cigarette thing, quick story. I had a terrible job I hated that made me miserable, working as a city carrier's mail assistant for the post office there for like 6 months. There towards the end, I wanted to quit. I knew I wanted to quit. I knew I needed to quit. One of my co-carriers had left her cigarettes in the mail truck the day before that I got, and there were like 4 or 5 cigarettes in it. It's so crazy because I was under such stress at that time with wrestling with the decision to, quit or not quit. I smoked 2 of those cigarettes, 2 or 3 of the cigarettes, however many were in the pack, but I know I saved one. And after I only had one left in the pack, I looked at it and I said, I know what I need to do with this cigarette. And it was ironic because I've never even had the urge to chew again since I did this with the tobacco. But why would I smoke those cigarettes? Because I was under stress? That's kind of an excuse. I smoked because I wanted to smoke, but I thought, I never did that ritual with actual cigarettes either. So I came up here, or with cigarettes too. I came up here, I did the exact same thing. I took the little bit of tobacco that was in that cigarette out of the paper. I thanked the earth for giving this to me. And it was a period of extreme stress. I hated my job. It made me miserable. I was working 7 days a week for weeks straight. It was just terrible. And so I did that again with the cigarette, and I've not smoked since. So I smoked 2 or 3 of those cigarettes, and those are the only 2 or 3 cigarettes I smoked, I guess, in maybe 5 years. In 2 days, it'll be no tobacco for an entire year. And since I did the ritual this summer with the cigarette, and since I did this last year with the tobacco, I have never smoked a cigarette or chewed tobacco again. So guys, I'm gonna go down to my house. We've had these woods are kind of peculiar. So anyway, I wanted to share this with you. You might be watching this in the middle of the summer. This will work anytime, and any time of the year is a good time to stop smoking or chewing tobacco, okay? If it is your New Year's resolution and you're seeing this video shortly after it was uploaded just before New Year's, do it, try. You know what, if it's the middle of the year and you find this video, try it then too, okay? It's timeless, it worked for me, I hope it can work for you. So, thanks for being with us for another video here at Homesteading Off the Grid. And we will see you for more next time.